The living room is completely silent. You're standing alone. Just moments ago, you won a massive argument with your partner. You used flawless logic, you cited exact timelines, you expertly dismantled their emotional response with cold facts. They walked out of the room in tears. You won the debate, but you're standing in the wreckage of your relationship. You feel a suffocating wave of isolation. You ask yourself why being right feels so incredibly lonely. You possess an advanced degree. You solve complex corporate problems every single day. Yet your personal life is a series of inexplicable financial losses and shattered connections. Stop blaming the ignorance of the world. Your intellect is not your savior. The brutal truth is that a high intelligence quotient does not protect you from making terrible decisions. Today, we demolish the arrogance of the intellectual ego. We are going to expose the hidden paradox of your brain. We will reveal exactly how your massive intelligence is secretly weaponized to amplify your own biological stupidity. Welcome to the most dangerous myth of modern education. Society has conditioned you to believe that rationality is a direct byproduct of a high intelligence quotient. You're taught that if you read enough data, acquire enough academic degrees, and analyze the facts objectively, you will naturally become immune to foolish decisions. You look at people who fall for obvious financial scams or destructive relationships, and you confidently tell yourself that you're simply too smart to ever be manipulated like that. That is a catastrophic cognitive illusion. A high intellect does not cure biological bias. It merely provides your ego with a much more sophisticated vocabulary to defend your worst impulses. Look at the hidden history of the most brilliant minds on the planet. Consider the documented records of globally recognized scientists, individuals who have won the highest possible international prizes in physics and chemistry, who later destroyed their reputations and fortunes by investing in absolute pseudoscience or obvious financial frauds. The world watches in shock and asks how an undisputed genius could be so utterly blind. But cognitive science provides a terrifyingly simple answer. These brilliant individuals did not fall for the scam despite their massive intelligence. They fell for it precisely because of their massive intelligence. When a person with an average intellect encounters a piece of contradictory information, they might simply admit they are wrong and adjust their worldview. But when a highly intelligent person makes a terrible choice driven by pure, raw emotion, their brain does not surrender to the facts. Instead, it aggressively deploys a massive arsenal of advanced logic to build an impenetrable fortress of rationalization. The smarter you are, the better you become at finding highly complex, completely fabricated reasons to justify a disastrous decision. This is known as the bias blind spot. It is the psychological paradox where your towering intellect convinces you that you are the only perfectly objective person in the room while everyone else is hopelessly biased. Your advanced intelligence does not actively seek the objective truth. It only seeks to protect your ego from the agonizing pain of admitting a failure. So drop the heavy burden of intellectual perfection right now. Stop torturing yourself with the endless question of how someone so educated could have been so stupid. Your disastrous investments and your deeply broken relationships are not signs of a declining intellect. They are the inevitable, predictable result of a powerful brain doing exactly what it was trained to do, which is to win the argument and protect your self-image at all costs. You are fundamentally exonerated from the crime of stupidity. You're simply suffering from the devastating side effects of an overactive rationalization engine. But recognizing that your intellect is a weapon pointed at yourself is only the first superficial layer of this revelation. To truly understand why your logic so easily betrays you, we must completely abandon the abstract concepts of intelligence and psychology. We need to look directly at the physical courtroom operating inside your skull. We are descending straight into the dark, silent chemical warfare happening between your emotional centers and your prefrontal cortex. Forget your academic degrees, forget your intellectual pride. We are opening the physical courtroom inside your skull. Think about the precise millisecond someone challenges your deeply held belief or points out a fatal flaw in your logic. Your heart rate elevates, your stomach tightens. You do not pause to objectively weigh their evidence. You immediately launch a verbal counterattack. Society calls this stubbornness. That is a fundamental anatomical error. let us perform a micro-autopsy on that exact moment of cognitive resistance. A groundbreaking 2026 neuroimaging study from the MIT Institute for Brain and Cognitive Sciences revealed a terrifying chemical mechanism. When your core identity is threatened by contradictory facts, the brain does not process it as a simple data correction. The amygdala registers the conflicting information as a severe physical threat. It instantly floods your neural pathways with cortisol. In a state of biological panic, the system completely hijacks your prefrontal cortex. This is the ultimate betrayal of your own anatomy. You deeply believe your logical brain acts as an impartial judge, carefully weighing the evidence to find the absolute truth. The raw data proves the exact opposite. Your intellect operates as a highly paid defense attorney. Its only job is to protect the client, which is your fragile ego, from the agony of being wrong. When the amygdala senses an emotional threat, it chemically forces the prefrontal cortex to aggressively search memory banks, distort historical facts, and construct elaborate loopholes just to win the case. This biological phenomenon is known as motivated reasoning. The profound tragedy is that your massive intellect makes you an incredibly lethal attorney. A less intelligent brain might simply run out of arguments and concede defeat. But your highly advanced neural network will relentlessly connect unrelated dots and fabricate brilliant justifications until the opponent finally gives up. The dopamine system actively rewards you for this self-deception. The absolute second you successfully twist the logic to win the argument, your brain releases a massive wave of dopamine. It physically medicates you with synthetic pleasure for actively rejecting the truth. You're not a stubborn manipulator. You are the victim of a corrupted chemical courtroom where your highest cognitive functions are held hostage by primitive survival glands. You are mechanically, mathematically, and biochemically cleared of all charges of arrogance. Your brilliant mind is simply doing exactly what it was chemically bribed to do. You are heavily defended against the severe psychological pain of admitting defeat. But look closely at this corrupt internal courtroom. It is entirely inefficient for modern problem solving. Why would nature design an incredibly powerful brain that actively prioritizes winning a petty argument over discovering the objective truth? The architect of this cognitive disaster does not live in your modern world. To find the true origin of your intellectual blindness, we must dig up the bloody soil of human history. We are dragging your DNA back into the brutal, unspoken tribal politics of your ancient ancestors. Leave the clinical precision of the modern laboratory behind. Forget the chemical equations of your prefrontal cortex and the neurological scans. We are ripping your consciousness out of the 21st century and dragging you back 300,000 years into the brutal, unforgiving environment of the ancestral savanna. Look at the bloody reality of early human survival. In the primitive tribal era, humans were physically weak, vulnerable creatures surrounded by apex predators. The absolute only way to survive the freezing nights and the severe famines was to remain safely embedded inside a cohesive, tightly knit tribe. If you lost your social status or if you angered the tribal leaders by challenging their beliefs, you were violently exiled into the wilderness. Exile meant certain, immediate death. Therefore, nature had to design a powerful mechanism to guarantee your social survival at all costs. That mechanism was your intelligence. The human brain did not evolve to solve complex mathematical equations, to read financial charts, or to discover the objective truth of the universe. This is no longer a philosophical theory. A groundbreaking 2025 evolutionary anthropology report published by the Oxford Institute of Human Sciences proved this exact phenomenon. Their research on the Machiavellian intelligence paradigm revealed that advanced logic evolved strictly as a highly sophisticated tool of social manipulation. Intelligence was a lethal psychological weapon forged to win arguments, to persuade other members, and to secure absolute dominance within the tribal hierarchy. In the brutal politics of the ancestral campfire, being objectively right was completely useless if the rest of the tribe disagreed with you and cast you out. But being highly persuasive, even if your facts were completely wrong, mathematically guaranteed your survival. Your massive intellect was genetically programmed to fiercely prioritize social victory over objective accuracy. This is the dark inherited blueprint of your cognitive bias. Now, violently pull your mind back to your current reality You're standing in your modern living room, looking at the tears of the person you love. You just used your advanced vocabulary and your flawless logic to completely annihilate their feelings. You deeply demand that a nervous system built for surviving ruthless tribal politics seamlessly perform gentle, objective communication. It is a profound, tragic biological mismatch. You're systematically punishing yourself for deploying an aggressive survival tactic that literally kept your ancient ancestors from being executed by their own people. Your desperate need to win the argument is not a sign of a toxic, narcissistic personality. It is the fierce, protective echo of a desperate lineage that survived the harshest social conditions on the planet so that you could be here today. You carry the heavy, invisible armor of those ancient tribal debates in every conversation you have. Society demands that you drop this armor and be perfectly rational and objective on command, but your biology knows the terrifying truth. It will wildly resist any attempt to surrender the exact cognitive shield that kept your entire family tree alive. You are undeniably exonerated by the brutal evolutionary history of human intelligence. But the history lesson is now officially over. Let the deafening roar of the ancestral campfire and the dark echoes of tribal warfare completely fade away. Silence the grand narratives of evolutionary biology and the tragic timeline of human survival. Shut down the epic scale of sociological engineering. The vast machinery of ancient history cannot soothe the quiet, immediate exhaustion you feel in your chest right now. Zoom all the way back into the cold, quiet space where you're currently standing alone. Feel the hard floor beneath your feet. Listen to the steady rhythm of your own slow breathing. In this tiny, isolated fraction of space and time, the massive, terrifying ghost of the tribal age suddenly loses its tyrannical grip. Breathe deeply into the profound stillness of this isolated room. Let the heavy, crushing armor of your intellectual pride simply fall to the floor. For years, you have treated your own mind as an unconquerable fortress, punishing yourself and those around you by desperately needing to always be right. You have tied your entire self-worth to your ability to perfectly analyze data, win arguments, and avoid logical errors. Tonight, that brutal, unnatural civil war officially ends. You are granted complete permission to resign from the throne of intellectual infallibility. The flawless, perfectly rational genius that society expects you to be is nothing more than a lonely, isolating illusion. Your inability to accept defeat, your stubborn rationalizations, and your aggressive verbal victories are not signs of a toxic, narcissistic personality. They are the beautiful, fractured evidence of a biological system trying to protect your fragile identity from the terrifying pain of vulnerability. Accept this mechanical truth. Let go of the desperate need to defend your logic against the people you deeply love. A perfectly optimized, purely rational life is a life completely devoid of human warmth. But inside this deep surrender lies the ultimate weapon of your existence. This is the profound psychological loophole that academia completely refuses to teach you. By dismantling the illusion of your objective mind, by realizing that your towering intellect is just a primitive defense attorney bribed by chemical dopamine, you are paradoxically set free. You are no longer a tired warrior trying to win every single conversation at the cost of your relationships. You are a silent, untouchable architect manipulating the physics of your own ego. The secret to profound human connection is not forcing yourself to be smarter, faster, or more articulate. The secret is knowing exactly when to forcefully power down your advanced logic engine. You do not use effort to prove a point. You simply recognize that winning the argument mechanically destroys the emotional connection. You engineer a synthetic pause. You look at the human being standing in front of you, and you intentionally step back. The biology of empathy will automatically build the bridge for you. You do not have to conquer your inherent need for social validation, and you do not have to suffer through the friction of being proven wrong. You only have to manipulate your reaction. The heavy chains of intellectual superiority have been permanently unlocked. You're entirely free to let the chemical architecture of your ego throw a desperate tantrum while your soul remains perfectly still and untouched. Yet, as the profound peace of this mechanical mastery settles into your mind, a heavy shadow of responsibility begins to emerge. The universe has granted you the exact blueprint to bypass your own biological arrogance. Tomorrow morning, a new conversation will inevitably start. The cold reality of an emotional conflict will present itself in the daylight. When that unavoidable moment arrives, standing at the fragile boundary between ancient ego and engineered empathy, what will you choose to do? Will you fall back into the exhausting, lonely trap of trying to be right? Or will you bear the quiet weight of your new awareness and silently drop the weapon? You have successfully disarmed your ego. You have laid down the heavy weapons of your intellect to save your relationships. But do not let this emotional victory deceive your survival instincts. Dropping your logical armor makes you human, but it also leaves your prefrontal cortex highly vulnerable. The terrifying truth is that highly intelligent people who surrender their need to be right become the ultimate targets for the most sophisticated psychological predators on Earth. You believe that your advanced education and your high intelligence quotient make you permanently immune to brainwashing? That is a fatal miscalculation. The darkest psychological systems, the modern corporate cults and manipulative ideologies, do not prey on the weak. They specifically target the brilliant minds who are searching for connection and meaning. Your massive intellect is actually the master key they use to lock you inside their ideological cages. You're standing at a highly dangerous intersection of empathy and manipulation. Will you let your search for connection turn you into a blind follower, or are you finally ready to study the dark mechanics of influence? Leave a comment below declaring your path. Choose to remain willfully ignorant, or choose to see the invisible strings, type your decision, and seal your commitment to the truth. Your intellectual arrogance has been dismantled. The new threat is the step-by-step psychological recruitment algorithm actively running in your society. How exactly do intelligent people get methodically programmed into devoted followers, and what are the invisible recognition patterns you are missing? We will expose the sinister psychology of cult recruitment and tear down their systems in the next video.